Usually when you look at a massive $20 billion industry, you expect the foundation to be made of solid steel. You look at it and assume, that building isn't going anywhere.
Right. From the outside, it looks completely indestructible.
Exactly. But then you walk inside and you realize the support beams are actually being held together by duct tape, a few handshakes, and an Excel spreadsheet that hasn't been updated since like 2018.
Yeah, that's when you feel the ground start to shake.
And that is exactly what we're looking at today. A regulatory earthquake hitting an Australian export industry that, it thought it was standing on solid rock.
It really did. And the source materials we're digging into today map out this exact crisis.
Right. Today's deep dive takes a stack of highly detailed documents we've gathered for you. We've got everything from comprehensive manuals on navigating the Australian Skills Quality Authority to best practice guides for international student counselors.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it. Whether you manage external contractors, build compliant software, or you're just fascinated by how complex systems operate under pressure, there is a masterclass in here about human behavior, risk, and technology.
What's fascinating here is that we aren't just looking at legal checklists. I mean, it's easy to get lost in the jargon, but we are looking at the mechanics of how an entire industry is being forced to evolve its culture, right? And its digital infrastructure just to survive. It is a complete metamorphosis.
It really is. So let's start with the catalyst for all this change. The 2024-2025 ESOS amendments.
Ah, yes. The big one.
Yeah, and just for clarity, ESOS stands for Education Services for Overseas Students. Before these amendments, managing education agents, the third-party recruiters who actually go out into the world and find international students, it was treated almost like an optional administrative task.
Yeah, like a chore.
Right. It was just a thing you did on the side, maybe tracked in a spiral notebook or a basic Word doc.
It was often completely outsourced and largely unmonitored. You just trusted the agent to do the right thing. But under the new ESOS amendments, agent management is no longer a side hustle.
No, definitely not.
It is a core compliance obligation. The government is essentially mandating that education providers are now directly responsible for the actions of the third-party agents they use.
And the surveillance net they are throwing over this is, it's intense. I mean, they are requiring providers to report highly detailed agent information directly into a government database.
The PRISMS database.
Right, PRISMS. They are creating a national register to actively track bad behavior across the entire industry.
Yeah.
So you can't just hide a bad agent anymore.
Exactly. And it goes further. By 2026, providers have to fully disclose the exact commissions they are paying these agents.
Wow, that's a huge shift in transparency.
Massive. Plus, there are now strict cross-ownership restrictions to kill conflicts of interest. And the amendments also introduce something crucial. Providers now have to demonstrate they have taken reasonable steps in due diligence when vetting an agent.
Reasonable steps. That sounds a bit vague, but I'm guessing it's not.
It's not, because if an agent acts unethically, the provider must take immediate corrective action, or the provider themselves will face severe sanctions.
Man. It's like moving from a cash-in-hand flea market to a heavily surveilled stock exchange.
Yeah.
But hold on, let me push back on this a bit.
Sure.
If I'm an education provider and I use a massive third-party aggregator platform to source my students, a sleek tech platform that connects schools with thousands of agents globally, aren't they the ones responsible? Shouldn't I be off the hook? I'm just buying a service?
You would think so, but the source material explicitly shuts that loophole down.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Arm's-length aggregator arrangements no longer excuse provider responsibility. Using a sophisticated platform doesn't remove your due diligence obligations.
So you can't just outsource the risk?
No, you still have to individually verify the agents introduced through those aggregators. Because if we connect this to the bigger picture, this billion-dollar industry relies entirely on Australia's international reputation.
Right. The brand of the whole country is on the line. People think the system is corrupt, they won't come.
Precisely. All it takes is one rogue agent creating fake confirmations of enrollment or giving unauthorized immigration advice to vulnerable students, and it damages the entire sector. You end up with ghost schools and visa factories.
It's a nightmare scenario.
It is. The government is ensuring that providers can't just look the other way, point at a software platform, and blame the middleman.
So your reputation and potentially your entire business license is tied to the absolute worst behavior of a recruiter operating like halfway across the world.
Exactly.
That is a terrifying amount of risk to carry.
It is. Which is exactly why the text argues that providers can no longer treat compliance as a periodic chore. You can't just check a box once a year. It requires a fundamental daily cultural shift within the organization.
Yeah, and the sources talk about the psychological friction of this shift.
Yeah.
They specifically point out the fatal flaw in how schools used to operate.
The boom and bust cycle.
Yes, the boom and bust cycle of compliance. Here's where it gets really interesting. It perfectly mirrors a college student cramming the night before a final exam.
Oh, absolutely.
You know the feeling. The auditor announces a visit. The whole organization panics.
What?
Everyone works until midnight fixing spreadsheets. You barely pass the audit. And then, boom, you completely neglect it until the next year.
It's reactive, it burns out your staff, and it is ultimately a house of cards. To survive this new regulatory landscape, providers have to build a proactive compliance culture.
Right.
And the text outlines 3 pillars for this: clarity, accountability, and visibility.
Okay, let's look at the mechanics of those because I think they're super practical for you, the listener, even if you don't work in education.
Definitely.
Clarity means everyone actually knows what compliance looks like for their specific daily tasks.
Yeah.
It's not just a dusty manual on a shelf.
Right.
Accountability is fascinating, though, because the text explicitly says it must be assigned to a person, not a department.
That distinction is critical. If the admissions department is responsible for agent due diligence, then nobody is actually responsible.
Because everyone just assumes the guy sitting next to them did it.
Exactly. Everyone assumes the person at the next desk checked the references. You need a specific name attached to the workflow.
Got it. And the third pillar.
Visibility. That means leadership needs real-time dashboards to see a bottleneck before it becomes a legal breach. You can't manage what you can't see.
And to test if this culture is actually functioning, the sources introduced this fantastic concept, the Audit Tomorrow test.
I love this test.
Me too. Basically, if an auditor walked into your office tomorrow morning, completely unannounced, could you instantly demonstrate a student's attendance record?
Or could you instantly pull up an agent's due diligence file?
Right. And if the answer is no, your culture is failing.
And realistically, things will still go wrong. Humans make mistakes. That's why the text outlines an incident response framework, so you aren't treating a missed signature like a 5-alarm fire.
Okay, how does that work?
You have Category 1, which are minor internal errors, things you can fix quickly. Category 2 requires management attention because it might affect a whole cohort of students.
Like a systemic software glitch.
Exactly. And then you have Category 3, which are serious systemic failures that require executive intervention and likely regulatory reporting.
So to stop a Category 1 from mutating into a Category 3, they propose a tiered training framework.
Yes, but the real insight in the text isn't the specific schedule of the training, it's the targeting.
What do you mean by targeting?
Well, you don't train your administrative staff the same way you train your executives. You customize the compliance shield to the specific risk that person faces on a daily basis.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, a student-facing counselor needs deep training on visa conditions, while a CEO needs strategic training on corporate governance. Tier 1 is for all staff, maybe annually. But Tier 4 is for leadership, and it's ongoing.
Okay, wait. Let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
If I'm running a vocational college and I make every single person in my organization accountable for compliance on a daily, weekly, and monthly rhythm,
Yeah.
doesn't that just grind the actual business to a halt?
How so?
Well, you're turning my brilliant teachers and dynamic recruiters into paranoid bureaucrats. It seems like it would just slow everything down.
It's a highly logical concern. A lot of business owners feel that way. But the reality on the ground is the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah, embedded compliance actually speeds up operations.
Right. It stops the endless email chain of, hey, you forgot to check this box.
Exactly. By avoiding those catastrophic Category 3 bottlenecks, the machinery of the business actually runs significantly smoother and faster.
Doing it right the first time is the ultimate time saver.
Precisely.
But here's the breaking point for me. You can build all the compliance culture you want. You can have all the accountability in the world, but human memory is fallible.
Very true.
If you are relying on people to manually remember these daily checks, you will eventually fail. A culture based purely on good intentions and scattered spreadsheets will just collapse under the sheer weight of the data.
You absolutely need a safety net. You need the right digital infrastructure. Because the financial reality of starting a registered training organization or an RTO is incredibly steep.
Yeah, the text gets into the actual numbers, and they are eye-watering. Putting thousands of dollars of upfront capital on the line and then relying on a manual Excel sheet to protect your business license. I mean, that is basically financial roulette.
It's reckless.
You cannot afford manual risk.
Oh.
Lost emails, forgotten due diligence, siloed data. You need what the sources call a connected compliance ecosystem.
To run an RTO today, your architecture needs a student management system, a customer relationship management, plus a learning management system, and a dedicated compliance management system. They call the seamless integration of all these tools a single source of truth.
I love that phrase. I picture a disconnected tech stack, like a band where none of the musicians can hear each other.
That's a great analogy.
Right. The drummer is playing jazz, the guitarist is playing heavy metal, and the lead singer is just screaming into the void. It's total chaos. But a single source of truth ensures everyone is reading off the same sheet music.
And the sources specifically highlight specialized software platforms, like Adukely, which act as the conductor for this band.
How does a platform like Adukely actually do that?
Well, Adukely bridges the gap by offering automated due diligence workflows. So instead of a human remembering to email an agent for a reference, the software just pings the agent automatically.
Nice.
It logs the timestamp, and it flags any missing data on a dashboard. It also prepares and formats data specifically for that government PRISMS reporting we talked about earlier.
Wait, why can't a college just use regular off-the-shelf business software? Like, why can't I just buy a generic CRM subscription online, customize it a bit, and save some money? Why the need for highly specialized niche platforms like Adukely?
Because a generic CRM doesn't know when a student's visa is about to be breached.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, in real time, a generic CRM is just a digital address book.
Yeah, just names and emails.
Right. It can't automatically generate regulatory warning letters when a student's attendance drops below 80%. The software in this industry isn't just storing names, it is an active, automated risk management shield.
Okay, so we've mapped out the massive regulatory laws, the psychological shift to a proactive culture, and the specialized tech stack needed to hold it all together.
The macro view.
Yeah. Now, I want to zoom in on the humans operating at the very edge of this massive system, the agents, and specifically the student counselors.
Ah, the front line.
Exactly. The people who actually sit across a desk or, a Zoom screen from a prospective student. The economics driving their behavior are just fascinating.
And understand the mechanisms of complex government frameworks. They have to know AQF levels, CRICOS codes. It's a completely different language.
All while delivering flawless customer service. They are the ones who have to break down the concept of value for money for a skeptical parent.
Right, because international study is a huge family investment.
Exactly. They have to accurately compare the cost of living in downtown Sydney versus a regional area, all while navigating the cultural nuances of formal versus informal communication styles. We have to look at the mechanics of those incentives.
Okay.
If an education provider is paying an agent a commission, aren't we just financially incentivizing that agent to shove students into the absolute most expensive courses they can find, regardless of whether that course actually fits the student's career goals?
You've just articulated the exact ethical and operational friction that the entire industry is currently grappling with.
It seems like a massive conflict of interest.
It is. And this brings us full circle right back to the catalyst of our discussion. This is precisely why the ESOS amendments and Standard 4 of the National Code were rewritten.
To stop that exact behavior.
Yes. To counter that exact financial temptation, the provider must monitor the quality ratio.
What does that track?
It is the rate of raw applications converting into actual, successful, compliant enrollments.
Okay, so it's a conversion metric.
Exactly. If an agent is just spamming a provider with hundreds of applications to chase high commissions or pushing students into courses they will inevitably fail or drop out of it, the provider will see that massive drop-off in their quality ratio data.
Ah, so the data acts as a tripwire.
Exactly. And under the new laws, providers are legally obligated to terminate their agreements if they even suspect an agent is acting dishonestly or prioritizing their own financial gain over the student's educational needs and visa compliance.
They have to cut them off.
Yes. The days of plausible deniability are over. The provider can't just throw their hands up and say, well, the agent did it, it's not our fault. The provider is legally on the hook.
That perfectly ties the whole ecosystem together.
It really does.
Let's recap the mechanics of what we've covered today. We started by looking at a billion-dollar Australian export market that just had its foundation rocked by the ESOS regulatory earthquake.
The end of the Wild West.
Exactly. We explored the psychological friction of moving away from that boom and bust cycle and why organizations have to build a proactive audit tomorrow culture, right down to the individual workflow.
Accountability to a person, not a department.
Yes, and we saw why human memory inevitably fails, requiring single source of truth technology like Edukli to act as an automated shield against all that risk.
Because generic CRMs just don't cut it.
Right. And finally, we looked at the intense human element, the daily grind of the student counselor, and how data tripwires are being used to keep high commission incentives in check.
The key takeaway here is that you don't need to work in international education to apply these lessons.
That's so true.
Whether you are in finance, healthcare, or tech, the principles are universal. Managing third-party risk, building a proactive internal culture, and ensuring your technology stack actually aligns with your regulatory reality, those are the foundational pillars of survival for any complex modern business.
It really makes you look at the hidden architecture of every big industry differently. You start wondering what is actually holding their support beams together.
It does. But I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, building on the trajectory of everything we've unpacked today.
Okay, hit me.
We've seen how deeply technology and AI, like Edukli's automated workflows, are being integrated to flag risks, verify documents, track agent performance, and ensure unshakable compliance.
Right, the software is doing the heavy lifting.
So if software eventually becomes capable of instantly and automatically verifying student credentials, tracking global visa compliance in real time, and algorithmically matching a student to the absolute perfect course based on a massive global data set.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
This raises an important question. Could the traditional highly paid education agent become entirely obsolete?
Wow.
Will the future of international education rely on messy, nuanced human relationships or a perfectly compliant string of code?
That is a wild thought to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems around you, and we'll see you next time.